What's going on, people? This is Joshua for Future Filmmaker, and I'm for his reviews where I talk movies, TV, and music, and I'm gonna do something completely different with these reviews. Rather than reviewing both of them separately, I have decided to do reviews of both of these movies at the same time in one video. So there will be timestamps for both of them in the description box down below, and they both just came out recently on October 1st, and that is reviews for The Many Saints of Newark and Venom, There Be Carnage. So, with that being said, we're gonna start off with the obvious one, and that is Venom, There Be Carnage. So, I do hope you guys enjoyed the way I'm doing these double reviews. It's kind of a way to review at least two new releases at the same time, since there's things going on right now in my personal life, which I won't get into, but let's get into it.
Like family.
So Venom, There Be Carnage is the sequel to 2018's Venom. This is directed by Andy Serkis, stars Tom Hardy, Michelle Williams, Naomi Harris, Reed Scott, Stephen Graham, and Woody Harrelson. In this movie, after finding a host body and investigative reporter Eddie Brock, the alien symbiote must face a new enemy, Carnage, who is the alter ego of serial killer Cletus Kasady. Going into Venom, There Be Carnage, I admit I was not very enthusiastic about this movie. When it comes to the first movie, I reviewed the first film at least 3 years ago in 2018, and that review is kind of inaccurate right now, because even though I was not a fan of it, I didn't think it was one of the worst things ever, and it wasn't even longer the worst movie of 2018. That goes to Holmes and Watson. On rewatches, it is better than I remember it being, but it still has a ton of problems, and it still has a lot of issues. So going into this movie, there were two things that had me open-minded about it. The idea of bringing Carnage in, which was set up at the end of the first movie, and Andy Serkis directing it. The movie was supposed to come out in 2020 last year, but it was delayed multiple times, of course, during the pandemic, but it finally dropped on October 1st, and I was able to watch it despite my whole situation, and I can say, surprisingly, I didn't hate this movie. But at the same time, I didn't love it either. I do think this is somewhat an improvement over the last movie, but it is still has a mountain of problems. So with that being said, let's get into Venom, There Be Carnage. The positives first, I will say Tom Hardy once again does a good job as Eddie Brock in Venom. He was one of the things I liked in the first movie, and I will say his accent is way better here than it is in the first movie. You can understand what he's saying a lot more. He is having fun, and you can tell that he really does care about this character. So he does do what he has to do in his more time. Also, I did like Woody Harrelson as Carnage, aka Cletus Kasady. We'll get to the way he's written a little bit, but I do think for what they did for what he had to do, Woody Harrelson, he did a good job as Cletus Kasady. He does what he can in the role. He's exactly what Carnage you expect. Carnage, he's evil. He is a serial killer, and he does get moments of killing people, even though there's one little problem I have with it. But he's a lot better here, and that horrible looking wig is gone. I will also say the rest of the cast is really good as well. Michelle Williams, Reed Scott, and Stephen Graham here. So they all do a very good job in their roles. I do like the direction by Andy Serkis. It's a very well directed film. It's a very well shot film in cinematography wise. He does have a good job, a good eye for visual flair. His direction in Mowgli Legend of the Jungle I thought was really good, and I think that's actually a very underappreciated film. I also really do like the score by Michael Bartolome. It is a very good score, especially Carnage's theme. I do enjoy it. The Venom and Eddie friendship is very funny still, and it still has that energetic fun that it goes for. However, there is a problem with that as well. A few action sequences are very well done and very well shot, despite the fact that there are some very bad decisions in terms of the editing and the way they're shot, which it does have a bit of a Snake Eyes problem there. But the action scenes, I think they're entertaining for the most part. I do have to give credit to the stinger at the end. I do love the stinger at the end. I'm not going to say what it is, but after seeing this, I will say this has me interested to see what's gonna happen in the MCU or in Venom 3 if he and Spider-Man does fight each other. In this movie, I want to say the comedy is a bit of a mixed bag for me because this movie doubles way down on the humor. I'm sorry. There are some moments where I think the humor is funny, and then there are moments where I just think the humor is too much in a lot of areas. I fully get that they're embracing the silliness and the stupidity that worked in the first movie, but I feel like this movie would have benefited from a much more darker tone. Because look at the title. And I will say that as far as some of the action scenes goes, while I did enjoy most of them, I do wish they were better handled. As far as the bad in this movie, let's get into the bad in the movie. The running time. It is an hour and 37 minutes, so it gets you straight in and out. And it's not boring. I was never bored with the runtime. But the problem is, I do feel like there are quite a few cases here where there are some scenes that are not very cut right, especially in some of the action. While it is nice to have a very short-paced film, I will say that I feel like the movie did not need to, could have benefited at least from a little extra few minutes. Shriek is completely useless here. Even though I don't hate Naomi Harris, I think she's a decent actress, but we don't get to know anything about Naomi Harris's character. I feel like she doesn't really do anything. I'm sorry, she's not very good here. I don't think she is all that impressive here, and I just feel like if you could have taken her out completely, you really need her here. Once again, they do underutilize Michelle Williams again, which is unfortunate because Michelle Williams is a great actress. Also, she's very pretty, but I don't think they utilize her to the best of her abilities. And I feel like she should have been in the movie way more than she is. Now, this is a big problem here for me in terms of Carnage. While Woody Harrelson is giving it his all, he is doing a good job. There are two things I have with this. One is the way he's written. Again, Kelly Marcel should not be writing a superhero movie. I'm sorry. She wrote the 50 Shades of Grey trilogy, and her writing here is not even much better. I think you should have had a much more competent screenwriter who actually has a grip on both Venom and Carnage. Because her writing here is so abysmal. There are a lot of huge screenplay decisions that I was not a big fan of, and to a certain extent it does kind of hurt a lot of dialogue and a lot of the moments that I did like in the movie. But this big thing that I have with Carnage is that you bring in Carnage in this movie, and we don't even get to see him. We don't even get to see him kill in his full form. It just, when you have a character like Carnage who is very lovable, likable, and very well respected in the comics, especially in the Spider-Man animated cartoon, you would think they would actually step up and go for a rated R and have Carnage kill people, because Carnage is a serial killer. He is a maniac. He is a murderer. But they don't really. Before you even see him killed, they would just once again have to do quick cutaways to avoid the PG-13.
How many times do we have to teach you this lesson, old man?
And this is one of the cases why I'm gonna have to say, even though I can deal with some superhero movies being PG-13, Venom, Let There Be Carnage, this is a prime example of a movie that will work best if it was rated R. Because when it comes to Carnage and Venom, this is the same thing that does hurt the first movie too, was a rated R. And you can make Carnage good, that's fine, but it's not an excuse to have some of the kills off screen or have some crossover excuse. Joker, Deadpool, Logan, and even the Suicide Squad, despite the fact that it did underperform a little bit, it did make money. And you should be rated R, because Carnage rips people's heads off, and it underperformed, but while I said Suicide Squad made money despite its underperformance, but it just feels like, I feel like the PG-13 rating definitely does get in the way in some of the more intense moments. Had you been rated R, I feel like it would have been like, okay, now you're really going for it. And I'm not a fan of the final fight between Venom and Carnage. It is pretty lackluster. You don't, at the end, because we don't get enough time to fully know who Carnage is or his wife, because the movie is under an hour and 37 minutes, it's just very, very hard to kind of get into what this movie is trying to be. So, yeah, those are pretty much my negatives here. So overall, while Venom Let There Be Carnage, it does some things right, and it is somewhat an improvement over the 2018 film, Venom Let There Be Carnage is still a very problematic film with some very big script decisions, a rating that doesn't allow the movie to go to its full advantage, a runtime that is heavily too short, even though some moments of this is not cut right, and the villain, while he is awesome and he is certainly better than Riot in the last movie, has a very lackluster final fight. Like I said, I don't hate the movie. It's a rainy daytime waster or a snowy daytime waster, but I feel like this could have been so much better. But at least I tried to be more open-minded this time, unlike the first movie. I will watch it again if I do get the DVD or Blu-ray or digital. I can watch it as some of the times as a time waster and appreciate most parts, but when you really get into this, I feel like this could have been a lot better. I'm gonna be fair, and I'm gonna say, if you do like the first Venom movie, I think you will enjoy this one. It is designed for those who didn't like that first movie. But if you did not enjoy the first Venom movie, you will not like this one. So I'm gonna be fair, and I'm gonna say, you can wait to watch this when it appears at Redbox. So you can rent it from Redbox. But if you really want to go see it in the theaters, just be safe. Now for the last half of this, we're gonna be talking about the Many Saints of Newark, which is a prequel to the Sopranos TV series. This came out, of course, on October 1st. I watched it yesterday, and this is directed by Alan Taylor, who's directed some episodes of TV shows and is the director of Terminator Genesis, and of course, Thor: The Dark World, which I don't hate. And this is, of course, based on the TV show of the same name. This is a prequel that takes place during the 1960s and 1970s in Newark, New Jersey. The film follows a violent gang war from the perspectives of mobster Dickie Moltisanti and his teenage nephew Tony Soprano in the midst of the 1967 riots. When it comes to the Many Saints of Newark, I was actually very curious about this. As far as the Sopranos show goes, I am a fan of the show. I didn't grow up watching it right away. I watched it later on, all 6 seasons, and each of the episodes, the seasons. This is one of the greatest TV series of all time. It's amazing. I love the performances. I love the characters. I love the actors. James Gandolfini, may he rest in peace, was a legendary actor. He was great in this role, in the role of Tony Soprano. So I was curious to see how this does, and of course, you do have some more characters in here to see what. And I also very much love what they were doing with this. It sounded like something very interesting, and just the idea of a prequel alone about the people who made Tony Soprano was actually very interesting and very intriguing. So, going into this, I was actually very curious, and also with the cast and the trailers, I wanted to see how this go, and surprisingly, I really enjoyed this. This was supposed to come out in September of last year, but we got it now. I watched it, of course, yesterday on October 2nd, which is now, today is October 3rd, which is Mean Girls Day. Happy Mean Girls Day, by the way, if you guys are listening to this. And I gotta tell you, I was very impressed with this movie. Now, of course, it's not gonna break new ground. I can understand why some Sopranos fans will not enjoy this, but, well, first off, I do have to say how it respects its source material, while it also gives us a good story about the people who influenced it. It does it in a way where, even if you have not seen the show, you have questions and you figure why Tony Soprano was the way he was, who made him, inspired this guy who he was on the show, what are the people that makes why is things are happening the way they do. And I was intrigued. I was very into it. I was very much enjoying it. It was very good, and I was enjoying it. I very much liked what the movie has provided, and you get exactly what you know, and it's very well handled in the way of direction, in the way of writing. It's very well structured, it's very well done, and you get elements of the story that I thought was very good. And honestly, this movie, I heard some people say this should have been a mini series or such. I don't believe that. I think for even 2 hours, it gets the job done, and you get exactly what you came to see. It's not mismarketed mess. It's not disjointed. It's not disedited. It's not studio interfered. I got exactly what I wanted with respecting the source material, and I think the direction of this movie is very good. I do love how this movie is directed. Alan Taylor, he knows how to shoot a film. He very much executes exactly what he sets out to do. And I was enthralled with this. I was very enthralled into the story, and you know exactly why we get to know. It does ask some questions that prequels does tell it ask, but also leaves you wanting more. So definitely, I very much appreciate the movie for that. Next up, of course, we do have to talk about the acting, of course. The acting in this movie is really good. It's a very great cast here, well-known names. You have, of course, Alessandro Nivola as Dickie Moltisanti, who is the father of Chris Moltisanti. And he does a really good job. Good job in the performance. He is he's very likable, very charismatic, and I bought his chemistry with Michael Gandolfini, which we'll get to. I thought he did a really good job. And the role as Dickie. Nivola does. Leslie Odom Jr. as Harold McBriar, I thought he did a really good job in the role performance-wise. It's very good, it's very well structured, and it's a very amazingly good line. And he does a very good job in the role. Of course, this is a gangster movie, so of course you're gonna have some profanity and some racial slur stuff into it too. So, but it's not overdone. Vera Farmiga as Livia Soprano, I thought she did a really good job in her performance, as well as Tony Soprano's mother. You have John Bernthal as the father of Tony Soprano, which I thought that was very good to see the Punisher himself in here. Ray Liotta, as he plays twin brothers, and I gotta say, wow, very impressed. It's good to see Ray Liotta still acting and still doing a good job, so he is really good here. Actors like Corey Stoll and Billy Madison and Michaela De Rossi and everyone else in the movie, everyone in this cast does a very good job with what is required of them. So the performances are good. The script, of course, is very solid for the most part. You get what you come to see, and that's what the point. You get exactly what you wanted to see, especially from a movie like this. The movie isn't even 2 hours, so it gets you straight in, gets you straight out. Cinematography wise, and production design wise, and costume wise, it's very true era depicting. And you do get your little mafia stuff that you come to see. And I love the direction that this movie goes into by the end. The main thing for me that does kind of hurt this movie a bit is of course, the script problems. There are some decisions in the script where I feel like that some of it was a little bit tacked on, and there was some decisions in the script where I think that they could have fixed a little bit, and it did leave me wanting a little bit more. But you know what? It was very much exactly what you wanted to, and the directors, they swerve much of what is familiar, but it is in good hands. It 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 makes it does strike with the same dramatic core as the show, and this is almost an entirely new set of characters, which is what impressed me the most. You have the same investment in these characters. As I said, it does have some script problems, of course, with some of the dialogue and some characters that do get a little sidelined. But for better or worse, I was very much impressed with what this movie was trying to do. I very much liked The Many Saints of Newark. It's an entertaining prequel to The Sopranos that respects the source material, and while also giving us a good story about the people who influenced Tony Soprano in his life. With great performances and a good direction that it goes. And also, I definitely have to say, Michael Gandolfini really did shine in his role as taking over for his father. I think James Gandolfini himself would be proud that his son is doing his part justice. He also was in Ocean's 8 for a little bit, and also recently in Cherry. So he does a really good job, and I definitely want to see more of him. So at the end of the day, I was very happy with The Many Saints of Newark, and I will give this an Epictastic. This is one of my favorites of the year. That was my double bill review of Venom, There Be Carnage, and Many Saints of Newark. If I had to choose which one you should watch, I would say check out The Many Saints of Newark. But if you desperately want to see Venom, There Be Carnage, you can check it out as well. Or either one you don't care about, that's fine. Let me know in the comment section down below what you guys think of this double review. I might do more like this as a way of, since I can't review. Well, I'll explain in the future channel update. Well, I can review some, but I want to try something out different for this. So, with that being said, all my social media links are in the description box down below. You guys keep it cool, join the Epictasticness, and be sure to subscribe to the 6 Geeks podcast channel for more. videos there, and we will have future episodes coming very soon, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye bye.